static, anything like that with the mic, so I can fix that type of stuff too. But in the meantime, we have a game to play here. So for Furious Gaming, we have WhosJohnGalt starting in the top position here as the blue Zerg, and in the bottom left-hand position, we have on a 2-kill streak so far, play for Team Chronic Facture, we have Jimmy. So that's pretty impressive there by him. And now we have a scoreboard reflecting that, which is always good. Also, feedback welcome on scoreboards, overlays, stuff like that. Hopefully this is simplistic yet easy. I think I want to try and add a value down there to the right of the drone count, the worker count. That's the army value, so you'd be able to see like the active army value right at that moment, which I think would be kind of cool. But you can pretty much deduct that from the supply minus the workers next to it. So not really sure how useful that would be, but it is something I was thinking about. And of course the bottom of the overlay needs to be aligned a little bit better. But I'm not a magician, so I will be working on that though. Each week hopefully it's improving and each iteration is a little bit better. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that. And we have the we have gas going down. All standard. It was a little bit late actually. It was at 13, but the worker hadn't been being built, so it was kind of like a weird delay there on it. And he's walling in on his main. It's weird. Jimmy does not like to wall at his ramp at all, or fast expand. He just really likes to build around his main base and defend the lanes that way. In the meantime, the expansion is down over here for Galt, which is a really good situation for him. He didn't have to build the spawning pool, though it is starting now, in order to get that down. That's always a good situation and everything to be in as a Zerg in the current meta game. Usually the Protoss are able to try and deny that expansion for quite a while, but it doesn't seem like Jimmy's really concerned by that. He's won his 2 games so far. I'm not sure if he blocked in the first one. I don't know if he was versus Zerg. I don't know if he was versus Terran, but it doesn't really seem to concern him too much. And again, no gas coming down here for our Furious Gaming Zergs. They take very late gases. I mean, this is daybreak, so they may just be rushing down to the 3rd. It's very, very common. Even the Wings of Liberty old, 12-minute maxed roaches actually still works very well on this map, which I guess kind of makes sense since it's an older map, but we'll have to see. Expansion looks like it wants to be taken here for Jimmy. He's piling up those minerals. He has a probe down here. It should be dropping right now. Yeah, it does go down. Let's see, if you'd already started gas, you'd be coming into lane speed at like, 550, 6 minutes. I don't know, I just feel like there's a big opportunity there as the Protoss expansion gets up to at least get some denying done. But at this point, it's going to be all walled up and safe and sound. Meantime, continuous droning over here out of WhosJohnGalt. I'm trying to think of a better way to abbreviate that. I could probably just call him Who's or Galt. Galt's probably easier to say. Ooh, maybe a free Overlord over here? Yep, free Overlord. That's always nice, and all of its guts go falling down. Wow, it actually goes all the way down there. Falls off into that daybreak. Very out there forge going down for Jimmy. Not starting his wall down here by the ramp. Which is kind of interesting. Usually you see like building, sentries nestled here. Wait a few seconds, building. That's pretty weird. Is there a wall in this? I mean, is there a gap in this wall at all? I don't think there is right now. I mean, there's this obviously, but nothing up here. And some wings being harassed by that stalker, who's gonna just be happy with the 2 kills that he has gotten and head back. These other wings all beaten up, they're very sad. 3rd has not yet been taken. Roach Warren is almost done. So will it just be a big Roach timing? Is it 3 Roaches coming out? There's lots of gas taken though. And there's no layer on the way. This is a weird build here out of Galt. Usually if you're in this situation where you want to push with a bunch of roaches off 2 base, you're going to want some type of tech behind it. like speed or +1 or at least link speed to get back across the map and, you know, reinforce after that. Looks like he's going to start banking. Alright, he has the Evo Chamber coming down and the Lair. Feels like they're a little late though, but we'll have to see if he's able to make that work. The wall is done over here for Jimmy. He has 4 sentries, a Stalker. Not a bad defense at all. That'll last a very, very long time versus Lings. We'll have to see how it lasts versus Roaches when they decide to start moving across the field though. Alright, +1 is starting. Inject's a little bit behind here for our Zerg player. Drones mightily pushing the Fat Queens out of the way. Alright, the expansion, the third, is finally looks like it wants to go down over here. He moved in and maybe thought better of it. There's an engagement out here in the middle of the map with a hallucinated Colossus. So he's trying to force a lot of units out. I'm not really sure that's a believable Colossus, however. Especially the fact that one Ling took all of its shields off. That's always a little bit of a, not sure about that. But it did do what it was meant to do, which is forced a lot of Roaches out. They're going to try and move over here and defend from this attack. Force fields were almost able to stop them from getting away. That was very, very close. And now we might be overextending a little bit. There's a lot of Queens. We'll have to see. Roaches being pulled back. Or are they going to go for it? There's a lot of sentries, but I feel like he could trade pretty efficiently here. Okay. 1 Roach going down for a sentry. Not a bad trade. 2nd Roach, 3rd Roach. Okay. And will they... There should be a way to merge Queens together into like an Archon of Queens that would... Okay, he's just going to recall. That's a good call. I think he was in a pretty dangerous situation. He maybe could have gotten 1 or 2 good force fields on this ramp and picked off a Roach or 2 before recalling, but that's just being a little bit greedy, so you know, that may not be the best idea. And we now Swarm Host much earlier. Looks like Swarm Host play was decided upon by the Furious Gamers, Zergs, and they're going to try and stick with it. 3rd going down out in the middle. Interesting position to take your 3rd base. In the meantime, Phoenix scouting around here. It's going to see a twitching infestation pit, which means either Enduring Locust or Infestor Energy. But now he's going to see 2 Swarm Hosts out on the ground, and there's no doubt now that it's going to be Infestors. So Colossus are going to need to start immediately dropping the Robotics Bay. Good read there. Another facility going down. So that's perfect read there by Jimmy. I mean, when you see that, you go double Robo Bay and start the Colossus production 2 at a time. That's what you got to do. You got to leave whatever standing army you have, which is a decent amount of standing army at this point in the game. You got to take that standing army, especially because he's on probes. But anyway, you take the standing army and you just build Colossus on top of it because it's the only way you're going to be able to deal with Swarm Hosts. Maybe Storms. Storms are good for dealing with Swarm Hosts, but you definitely are fighting a losing battle with High Templar versus Swarm Hosts. They're more like, I'm going to storm this wave and then I'm going to push on top of you. They're not, I'm going to sit back and be defensive and take my 3rd base like Colossus are. Colossus are a very defensive tool versus Swarm Hosts compared to High Templar. Look how cuddly the Swarm Hosts are. Like big, weird, low-riding mushrooms. Hippity, hippity, hoppity, hoppity. What are you guys doing? You guys aren't going to burrow? Another hallucinated Phoenix scouting around. Down here in the south, we have a Warp Prism, though. It's going to pile in a few Zealots, then it's probably going to fly over, wait a few seconds, and drop again and warp in on that drop. But there's a few Roaches there to defend it. Alright, looks like that Overseer does get picked off. Now, how much information did he get? Did he see the double Colossus production? Yes, he should have. Okay. Yeah, he should be in a pretty solid position, actually, to adapt and mix in more. Okay, yeah, he's going to go for a Spire. That's a good call as far as that goes. Especially because the ultimate composition you want is Swarm Host, Spinecrawler, Spore Crawler, Infestor, and Corruptor, of course. With a few Broodlords, actually, I guess would be the most ideal composition, as the Broodlords and the Locusts both shooting out, or the Broodlords and the Swarm Hosts both shooting out Broodlings and Locusts, which are free units. But the best part about that is they arrive in different positions, so it messes with the Colossus AI. Even having like 2 or 3 Broodlords is actually a pretty dramatic difference if the Protoss isn't focus firing correctly on the Locusts, because the Broodlings will jump right in their face and they'll be more prone to shoot those than the far away Locusts, who actually deal more damage. So that's something you got to keep in mind as the Protoss player, making sure you're focusing Locusts in order to get rid of them. When it's all free units, that is. Locusts piling up, traffic jam. Are they going to attack those rocks, though? Galt floating a decent amount of resources, and that's probably because he actually hasn't put a lot of drones in his 5th and 6th gases. Oh, look at him. Pew, 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 pew. Just drop so fast to those little guys. Should I do 14? Yeah. It's a 12 base. That's ridiculous. They attack so fast, too. Alright, there's a decent amount of Colossus on the field. I mean, that's really actually quite a lot of Colossus. 5 Colossus is a lot for 15 minutes. Colossi, I guess I should say. But free trading is always, always, always good. Lots of Corruptors to deal with this, though. I feel like our Zerg player is in a little bit of a better position. He has 4 bases up, which, I mean, the Protoss is establishing his 4th, but I feel like this army could trade very, very well if he decided to push in on it at all. Especially with those roaches. Where did they go? Are they all defending the natural? I'm sorry, the 4th base? Yeah, there's only 2 roaches under this. Very, very interesting. Okay, so now the Protoss is definitely in an advantageous position. He has these, although it's only a few cannons, it's still a lot better than nothing to fall back to. So there's not actually going to be very much damage done at all here by either side. And it looks like it's starting to evolve into one of those typical Daybreak stalemates, which is why Daybreak, I think, was getting removed. Because it is, these are long games, and they've been long games for years and years on Daybreak. And HOTS is a little bit more aggressive. So hopefully we'll see some Warp Prism play or some drops or something to speed up this mid-game as both players are working towards their maxed out armies. And that's spelled a D, I believe. It's probably very significant. Keep that in mind for the future. Locusts moving in. They're going to kill that Archon pretty easily. Stompity stomp. Alright, Corruptors look like they really wanted to engage there, but there are Templars. They do not have Storm, though. Storm is not finished. It's very, very close, though. He will have Storm in just a few seconds. If any of his Templar have the energy, that one looks like it has the energy to cast it. Right there with 2 bars. Corruptors just kind of oddly trading. 2 of them kind of floating forward, not really getting that much done. And now the Protoss army looks like he really wants to engage, but he mistimed it, and there's an entire wave of brand new Locusts out on the field that are going to chase him away. That is so many Colossus, though. And they melt those Locusts so well. As the Locusts are essentially mini Hydralisks with less HP. Pretty much the exact unit that a Hydralisk is, except for it doesn't shoot up and has less HP, and you spawn 3 of them at once. And they only cost the supply of a Swarm Host, which I believe is something like 3 or 4? I don't remember, actually. I need to play more with Swarm Hosts. Alright, it's a decent engagement here. We have Spinecrawlers working with big storms on actually all the Corruptors, all of them getting very low, but some good transfuses going down. And it looks like the Zerg is going to be able to take out all the Colossus. There's still a decent amount of ground army left, though. But without the Colossus to deal with all these Swarm Hosts in the back, it should be a pretty advantageous situation here for our Zerg player. Should be able to push up quite a few waves of Locusts and maybe stomp through the static defenses that are going on right now. He has creep spread pretty far up. We got a Time Warp going down here. Some force fields, but you know, anything you're killing with these is efficient. So he gets a cannon, I think one other unit over here on the left-hand side, and then here comes the next wave. Bullet time Locusts, slowing down inside of that Time Warp. And now they're going to trade, take out another cannon, maybe 2 more cannons. I'm not sure. Protoss player may just be giving up on this idea. Looks like he's going to try and just circumvent the army and go around from the back and try and get in that way. But Locusts already rallied in that direction. In the meantime, at the 5th base, a drop is going down, slash a warp in that was probably right there, I'm not exactly sure. And it slices it up to pieces. And the Corruptor's engaging a little awkwardly, but picking off another Colossus. There's a lot of Corruptors, though, and not that much in terms of ground forces here. to be very, very careful. Feedback's going down there on the Vipers. Now the Swarm hosts are right underneath this. Big storms going down on all of that. Corruptors coming back in. They're not really corrupting anything, which is the only thing that they could do at this point. And there is no some Spire tech really. So there isn't a way for them to do anything about that. We got 13 more Swarm hosts out on the field right now though. And it looks like some of those Swarm hosts were pulled back in order to try and defend that. And as they were pulled out of position by that attack on the 5th, that's really when Jimmy moved in. So very, very good of using the immobility of those Swarm hosts. And now, looks like he may be able to push up into this base up here. Doesn't look like there's an observer though, so there's not any way for him to actually kill those Swarm hosts. Big blink on top of the rest of these spawning Swarm hosts. All 4 of them just get picked off instantly. Now Immortals rip up Swarm hosts really, really bad, as they're little fatties that can't get away very easily. Just squish, squish, squish by the bugs. Okay. Ooh, lots of locusts driving this back. A few stalkers going down here. It seems like the Protoss army in general is in a very good position moving into this game. Maybe an Archon falling here to the roaches. Yep. Archon does fall to those roaches, but all 4 of the roaches do die. And now there's a counterattack of Blink Stalkers that look like they're just going to try and run in and get as much damage done as possible. Queen's stomping their way forward. No Transfuse going down on that Queen. It does get picked off. There's plenty of energy there for a Transfuse. A few Locusts adding into that fight. Another wave coming in right now. Roaches moving around trying to pick off these last 4 remaining Stalkers. Now there's only 3. And it looks like that job is going to get cleaned up by the rest of those Locusts. In the meantime, that was just a draw to pull them out of position. And now over here, the 4th base goes down. The 5th base, or the 3rd base is also dead. So now Jimmy is in a very commanding position economically, where the Zerg just isn't going to be able to keep up at all on his production. And that's probably just going to win him the game as it goes on, unless the Zerg can somehow defeat the rest of this army and then take both of his expansions and not get attacked right off the bat. Got some fungals going down. These Immortals just going to town on that hatchery, ripping it apart. Now stomping up the hill. They actually get caught out. And Swarm hosts moving up. Burrow, guys. Burrow and rally up this ramp. Not sure what they're doing. The Swarm hosts seem very tired, as they are not burrowing, and all of the infrastructure up here in the main base of WhosJohnGalt is going down. WhosJohnGalt, I'm sorry. And the double spires, not that useful when you are not going for Broodlord. And this might just be the end of the game with the tap out here from WhosJohnGalt. I'm not sure. He's trying to be pretty scrappy, but the only hive / hatchery he has is the one in his main, which is slowly getting picked apart. I don't know, we'll have to see. That is a lot of Swarm hosts, I will say that. If he can just trade straight through in a big engagement, he may be fine, but he's going to have to deal a ton of damage with these Swarm hosts. So much damage, it's obscene. Blink going forward, Swarm hosts burrowing, Stalkers and Colossus are forced to retreat as a wave of Locusts goes out. Storm may be going down on these Colossus, dealing a ton of damage. More Stalkers being warped in. They blink over them, and they're going to start trying to go for the Swarm host, but they have backed up very, very far, actually into the, what would be 4th base, and now rallying out some units to try and deal with the Zealots that were harassing / taking out the Extractors and things like that at the 3rd base, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it actually is. I mean, it's 150 more minerals every time you establish a base, so it can't really be that overlooked, especially in one of these split map / low econ for the Zerg situations. And the Zerg player is actually down 50 supply. It is entirely in workers, to be fair. I mean, their army count is actually very, very similar. It's just the worker count that is so disparate. And lots of Locusts stomping forward. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to get much done. The 313 on the Protoss army is just keeping them alive for so long. Now we have quite a few Corruptors moving up again to try and pick off these Colossus. But it just doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Colossus rolling on forward. He does have Infestors to hold that army in place if he needs to. Front Colossus actually got through its shields. So that's an achievement for those Locusts. They can go home proud, knowing that they stripped the shields off of one of the Colossus. And now the Locusts really want to pick off some more Stalkers for no reason. Alright, lots of Stalkers going down. I guess not a lot. Lots of Storms landing on those Corruptors, though. They are forced to retreat. And no real great Fungals accompanied that game. Alright, there should be a Fungal right here. There's a good Fungal on the entire ball of Stalkers. There's a second. A third is available, but our Zerg player decides to back up just a little bit here as he gets ready to throw out the next save. Big Fungal on actually all the High Templars. And they're just going to storm away to prevent these Locusts from getting forward and dealing the damage that they need to do to try and keep WhosJohnGalt in this game. And the main was dropped again by the Warp Prism, and it is dying to a bunch of Zealots as well. They're slicing up the drones as they come back from the natural. There's only 3 left. It's a very dangerous situation for them. Where are those 3 drones even? I have no idea. Find the drones. I'm not sure. They're hiding somewhere. Oh, there's 2. That's all that's left. Those 2 drones. They're going to try and mine here at this newly reestablishing third. Everything going down up here, though, for WhosJohnGalt in his main. Hive is about to fall. Down it goes. Evo Chamber does die as well. That leaves really nothing on the field as far as buildings. There's a hatchery, 2 extractors. Yep, that's it. A hatchery and 2 extractors out on the field for WhosJohnGalt. Okay. Okay. Down the Locusts go. Again, Zerg is in a very solid position, but there are a ton of Swarm Hosts, so he just wants to make sure he establishes himself very well with his economy as he harasses away here. Templar getting taken out. I don't think there's... Yeah, there's 0 drones out on the field, and WhosJohnGalt is going to build 3 drones here, try and get his mining on. Meantime, 5th base being taken here, and Stalkers taking out some of the last remaining buildings here, these extractors down here in the south. Here comes another big wave of Locusts. The positioning of the Protoss army is very, very good, though. All the Locusts have to bunch up as they turn around the corner, and that is so many Colossus. 10 Colossus. That is insane. That's 60 supply of Colossus just right there. That is just dirty. So many laser beams going out across all these Locusts. They're getting practically no opportunity to even shoot, to be honest. And now the Templars and Colossus chasing them down. Swarm Host reburrowing here in the south. Big Storm's going out on top of the Swarm Host. I mean, he knows that they're there. He knows that the Locusts are going to melt. And game number 3 goes to Chronic Facture's Jimmy, making it a 3-0 so far in this series in a best of 9. Will Jimmy be able to start closing it out in this next game? If he gets it, it's only 1 more for Chronic Facture. Or will the next player out of Furious Gaming start to actually bring it back? We'll have to see in game.